Welcome everyone to the Stateless Atheist. Today I'm going to be looking at Frank Turek and his answers to 3 atheist objections to Christianity. Let's begin.
Yes, sir. What's your name?
Hello, my name is Carter.
Hey, Carter.
And I'd very much like to begin by addressing your instant moral law argument that without God as an objective moral standard, we atheists, those who do not have any of those theism, would be Hitler-esque amoral beings.
Okay, let me stop right there because that's not the case. I never said that atheists can't be moral. I never said atheists don't know morality.
You haven't said that, but a lot of Christians do say that. So stop thinking your form of Christianity is the only form of Christianity. That's a common belief among Christians. They say, oh, you're wrong because I don't say that. But other Christians do. There's thousands of denominations.
In fact, atheists know morality just like everybody else. We know morality because it's written on our hearts.
Do you have evidence that it's written on our hearts, or are you just stating that? What about the people thousands of years ago, even before the Bible was ever written down? Did they have it written on their hearts? Because murder was actually a lot more prevalent then. What about the 10 Commandments? If it's written on our hearts, why does thou shalt not murder need to be in the 10 Commandments? If it's already written on our hearts, why do we also need it on paper? What about all the people who just disregard what's written on their hearts? How do you prove that it's written on our hearts? Also, being a dictate by God doesn't make it objectively wrong. It's just a dictate by a higher being, a more powerful being. It doesn't make it wrong.
What I'm saying is that atheists can't justify morality. That's the point. In fact, I had to say this several times to Christopher Hitchens. Christopher, I'm not saying you're a bad guy. Christopher, I'm not saying you don't know morality. In fact, I like Christopher. I thought he was a good guy. What I'm saying is you can't justify why not murder innocent people to get what you want.
And neither can you. Many Christians say, well, if I didn't get punished for going to the afterlife, to hell for murder, I would murder. I don't think they would, but they make that argument. So they're not really saying it's wrong to murder. They're just saying they won't murder because they're going to be punished. Saying God says it's wrong doesn't make it wrong. You have to have a reason.
That's the point. It's a point about ontology, not a point about epistemology. It's not a point about how you know the moral law. It's a point about why does the moral law exist.
I may return to address this, or the gentleman behind me may address this, but I'd really like to address your design argument.
Okay.
As I understood, you've argued that a painting or a creation, to use the term painting, implies a painter, or a design implies a designer. But I was asked, who designed God? And if no one designed God, if God is timeless, spaceless, and immaterial, and he existed eternally in an uncaused fashion, then why can't nature exist in the exact same way, in an eternal, uncaused, spaceless, timeless, and immaterial fashion? Why can't our uncaused origins be as marvelous and precise as God, but be natural causes?
Excellent question, Carter. That's a very good question. You're right. Now we have 2 options here. Either the universe is the uncaused first cause, or something beyond the universe is the uncaused first cause.
Or a third option, all matter and energy was eternal. We don't know if it was or not. We know the Big Bang was the beginning of space, time, and matter for our universe. That doesn't mean that it didn't exist prior in another universe or anything like that. It could be eternal. It could just be a cycle of expansion, contraction, expansion, contraction. It could just be a continuous circle. Yes, I know Christians will argue that an infinite regress is impossible. We don't know that an infinite regress is possible. It's possible, like Christians argue, that well, we can't understand God. Maybe it's possible we can't understand an infinite regress. Just stating it's impossible doesn't make it impossible.
The problem is that all the evidence points to the fact that the universe is not the uncaused first cause. And I didn't have time to go through that evidence tonight. That was part one. But I'll give it to you very briefly in an acronym, SURGE, S-U-R-G-E. S stands for the second law of thermodynamics, which says that the universe is running down. Well, if it's running down, somebody must have wound.
What about the first law of thermodynamics, that neither matter nor energy can be created or destroyed?
We have no energy left right now if the universe was eternal. The U stands for the fact that the universe is expanding, and when Hubble detected that back in 1929, and shows that everything came from a single point, a point actually of infinite density, the singularity, which is actually nothing. So the universe had a beginning. The
universe had a beginning. We don't know prior to the universe. The universe is just the makeup of what we see now. The cosmos, which is beyond the universe, which includes the universe and anything else, we don't know about. It could be that there's another universe. It could be this universe, like I said before, expanding and contracting. It could be a multiverse. There's so many other possibilities.
In SURGE stands for the radiation afterglow. That's the remnant heat discovered by Penzias and Wilson in 1965, which is literally the smoking gun to the Big Bang. There's heat, remnant heat from the Big Bang still out there, which shows that the universe had a beginning. The G in SURGE stands for the great galaxy seeds, which were very fine temperature variations in that radiation afterglow that allowed the galaxies to form in the early universe.
So why would a God, all-powerful being, need particulars for a life or the universe to be created? Couldn't he create it, being all-powerful, in any situation? Why would he need particular characteristics to create the universe? He should be able to do it ex nihilo, in any case. He shouldn't require a designed.
And the E stands for Einstein's theory of general relativity, which shows that time, space, and matter are correlative, that they came into existence together, that space, time, and matter literally had a beginning. Einstein knew this
and you're really not understanding how scientific theories work. Einstein's theory of relativity is a scientific theory. That's our best explanation relative to the evidence we have at the current moment. It doesn't mean that's the final answer. It means we could, in the future, find out, no, that it wasn't all created then, it was just repackaged. We don't know that. That's the best answer now. We do know that our space, time, and matter for this universe was expanded, or expansion, a great expansion, during the Big Bang. It doesn't mean that it was necessarily created then.
1916, then observational evidence began in 1919 when Eddington did his test on the eclipse, and then Hubble discovered the expanding universe in 1929, and then on to the radiation afterglow and the great galaxy seeds after that. So the evidence points to the fact that the universe is not the uncaused first cause. So there must be something beyond the universe that is, and that thing that's beyond the universe must be spaceless, timeless, and immaterial. And if you're timeless...
No, it must not necessarily be immaterial. Even if the universe has a cause, and there's a secondary first mover, it doesn't necessarily mean that that mover is a god. It could be another universe. It could be a multiverse. We've went over this. You're just placing God in there. That's called the God of the gaps argument. You have no evidence for that, therefore you're filling God in the gap. I'm not. I'm giving you other possibilities.
Have a beginning?
No.
No. So that God is not, he didn't have a beginning. He's the uncaused first cause. Look, Aristotle, Plato, they all knew this. They knew there had to be an unmoved.
Aristotle actually didn't believe that there was a God causing the universe. He believed the universe was eternal. he used the uncaused first mover as a thought experiment.
I believe you're drawing a false dichotomy, because we do not know that the original cause was God. There's no reason to say that an intelligent designer was the first cause, the uncaused first cause that caused everything else. I do not have the training or expertise to refute such science, and in fact, I accept your conclusion that the Big Bang had a beginning and space-time matter came into existence from a point of origin. But we do not know that this point of origin is God. Calling it God is to make a false assumption. Another reason for the existence of everything might simply be that other dimensions have the power and marvelousness and complexity to create a situation where where the Big Bang could be brought into existence and space-time and matter begin to exist without an intelligent designer having a hand.
Well, Carter, what you just described there is what we would call God.
No, it's not. There's a big difference between a dimension creating another dimension than what you're talking about, an intelligent being that dictates our lives. That's two completely different things, Frank.
God is in another dimension and has the ability to bring these dimensions into existence. So if you want to call it another dimension, you can call it that. But that's exactly what we mean by God.
But then why is there a theology? Why do we worship God? We could easily call them.
Excellent point. You don't have to worship God. In fact, Aristotle never worshiped God. In fact, the Greeks never got their theology and philosophy together. They knew that there had to be an unmoved mover, but they never put the two together and worshiped the unmoved mover.
Why should we worship anything? You're not telling us why we should worship this unmoved mover.
So you don't have to worship the unmoved mover. You don't have to. You can do whatever you want. That's why you have free will. God loves you enough to give you free will. You can love him or reject him. That's up to you.
Actually, it's not. If God's all-knowing, all-powerful, and created everything, then everything we do was created by his will. He knew at any point in time, before he created everything, every single thing I would do in my life, every single thing, Frank, you would do in your life. And he had the ability to create us to do anything else. Yet, he chose me to be an atheist, and you to be Frank Turek, the worst philosopher in history. We didn't have our choice. He chose us that way. We couldn't do something different than what he chose. If we could, then he didn't know about it, and he wouldn't have known everything. So you have to either get rid of all-knowing, all-powerful, meaning he couldn't create us in a different way, or all-loving, saying he didn't love us. Which is it? You can't have the Trinity put together and still have all these paradoxes.
But on that point, you have the free will to accept or reject God, but the obvious conclusion is that a rejection of God will lead to eternal damnation in hell. So in reality, we do not really have the choice to accept or not to accept God. We must ultimately accept God, assuming we choose to avoid perdition.
Well, if you want to avoid... Well, let me back up for a second. There's only two possibilities if God exists. In eternity, you're going to be with him or you're not going to be with him.
No, that's a false dichotomy also. It's possible that there could be a God, even the Christian God, that we don't understand the Bible. There could be 12 different possibilities that we don't know about. You don't know that there's only two possibilities. There could be hundreds of possibilities. There could be one possibility that we all just end up in the ground. That's the only possibility that we have any evidence for. That we're all end up in the ground, as fertilizer. So please, don't stop putting in God of the gaps.
Right? That's logically the only two options. If you want to be with him, you will seek him out and be with him. If you don't want to be with him, God will not force you into his presence against your will. In fact, let me make the objection stronger than what you're making it. You're very polite, but I debated an atheist who was a little bit more direct. And let me tell you, this man he's a good man. I like him. His name is Eddie Tabash. He's an attorney from Beverly Hills. We debated at the University of Michigan a number of months ago. And he looked at me during the Q&A and he said, Frank, my mother was a survivor of the Holocaust. She lived an awful life. Somebody presented her with the gospel and she rejected it. Is she in hell right now? Whoa. I said, Eddie, I don't know where your mother is. I don't know if she made a profession of faith in her last moments, but if she didn't, then God will not force her into his presence against her will. God is too loving for that.
How is that loving? First off, if God was loving, he would at least give us evidence that he exists and then let us choose to be with him or not. Not God of the gap, divine hiddenness. Just hide in the shadows and, ooh, here I am, here I am. He is the world champion of hide and go seek. That's not loving.
Ask the audience this question. In fact, I'll ask you as an audience this question. Ladies, is there anybody in here who's ever had a man pursue you and you did not want that man to pursue you? You did not want to date him. Anyone in here? Of course. In fact, some of you are going, yeah, he's sitting right next to me right now. He won't leave me alone. I said, okay, ladies, suppose this man continues to pursue you and continues to pursue you. And you say, look, I only like you as a friend. Ladies, why don't you just take the knife, stick it in, and turn it? Because every man in here has heard this.
Frank, you're not funny.
Like you, but only as a friend. Well, suppose he continues to pursue you. And he gets to the point where he says, look, I love you so much, I'm going to force you to love me. Can he do that? No, he can't do that. Love, by definition, must be freely given.
Okay, a couple more problems with that. First off, the woman on her deathbed before, if she just professed her belief in Jesus Christ at the last minute before she died, how is that love? That love would actually, you have to show love. It has to be more than that. Second off, God would know whether we love him or not. If he's all knowing, why do we have to profess it? Third, I doubt he said that his mother rejected God. Atheists don't generally reject the gospel. We ask for evidence. If you don't have evidence, then why are we talking? Just showing us, oh, here's a book. I could give you a book. Here, I got a couple of books over here. Which book do you want to look at? And I can say this is 100% true just because it says it's true. That doesn't make it true. Frank, your face is funny. So, and the third thing, when a man is rejected by a woman, it's not like what he does is he tortures the woman for not loving him. So it's not a good analogy either.
So if he truly did love you, what would he do? He would leave you alone. That's exactly what God does. He keeps sending us cards, letters, and flowers while we're here.
No, he's not. The Bible or you is not cards, letters, or flowers. God is all-knowing. He would know exactly how to convince me that he exists. That would be a card, letter, or flower from God. Why isn't he sending it?
And if we keep rejecting him, he gives us up to our own desires. And that ultimately what hell is. Hell is separation from God.
Yes, I've heard that some Christians say it's just separation from God. Many of you, if not most of you, argue that that separation from God is also torture, which is wrong. You can't have an all-loving being torturing billions of beings. It doesn't logically conclude. It doesn't matter if it's separation from God or not. It doesn't matter if we didn't want to be with God. It doesn't matter any of that. Torture for infinity is wrong, Frank.
So you're free in hell. You can continue to reject God in hell.
how are we continuing to reject God in hell? Could we choose in the future, while we're down there, to accept God? No, we can't. A loving God would give you a second chance. He can't just torture people for eternity and still be a good, loving God.
But you're confined to hell. In fact, hell is a quarantine of evil.
How is not worshiping God evil? Please explain that, Frank. Please explain that.
That's what it is. And heaven, of course, is being in the very presence of God. God loves you too much to force you into his presence against your will. Thanks, Bart.
Well, everyone, that's the end of that video. I will be doing more of these in the future. They're quick, easy rebuttals. And if you have any particular videos or that you want me to refute, or if you want me to go over any particular questions, either politically, economically, philosophically, or religiously, please send them to me. Thank you again. Hope to see you all soon. Thank you, everyone, for joining me. Please like and subscribe. I'll see you soon.